I'm getting my Basquiat on, y'all. The M word, multiculturalism. Now, you know that multiculturalism, the term, is something that some liberal white person made up in order to make it seem like there was an attempt to kind of get to know the little groups of oppressed people that was sprinkled in into any one society dominated by white oppressor society. Matter of fact, that's just basically every society in the damn world. After hundreds of years of terrorizing and continuing to terrorize many nations of color, stealing identity and culture, monopolizing identity and culture, there was this term that is created, multiculturalism, which basically explores the idea of learning about different groups and different cultures through interaction and giving it some sort of name as a way to give leadership, I guess, to different segments of the population on ways on which they can do this. Now, I think that that's completely retarded, because multiculturalism without a name is just is just that, interacting with different groups and different peoples. You know, it wasn't something that was created by people of color, because let's just take Africa for example, because that's what I talk about. Within any segment of any population on the continent of Africa, there can be several different ethnic groups, 100 different cultural references. So multiculturalism isn't something that color people have to even have a name for. It is something that we just do. Even within the United States, just growing up in whatever, I'm going to say inner city, because that's where you get the most exposure to different cultures and different peoples. Even when it's in the urban surroundings, you get to interact with, obviously my family is from the Caribbean, so Jamaica and Grenada, and then you see Africans from the continent and you interact with them. You see Africans from other Africans from the Caribbean and you interact with them. You see Africans from the United States and you interact with them. You see Africans from Spanish speaking, you interact with them. And this has been the certain level of interaction that we've had for a very, very long time, because usually when you're talking about oppressor and oppressed groups, the oppressor groups usually are within the same areas of each other, because they can't get in or access to the oppressor groups' societies. And we're talking about oppressor groups of white people, white groups, you know what I mean? They couldn't usually get into those societies or those areas where they were, and so they had to be with each other. And so multiculturalism is not lost on people of color, especially within the oppressed groups of the United States. And so multiculturalism to me essentially means a adherence, or making it seem like white power doesn't exist, and trying to get all of these cultural ethnic groups to kind of agree with that. And essentially what multiculturalism does to my culture, to your culture, to that culture, is to homogenize it and make it into one colorful little thing that can be found in one place, instead of the person in the oppressor group having to actually interact with different segments of the population that doesn't belong to the oppressor population. And so that's what we have essentially in the term multiculturalism. There can't be any real multicultural anything until oppressed populations are free, until Africa is free, until African people have their resources. You can't have an equal relationship, a genuine sharing of information, and learning about one's culture, unless the people themselves are enabled and empowered to even want to share that information with you. When you have a situation where you are the one that is dictating and mandating everything, and then you kind of say, okay, now we have multiculturalism. This is my attempt to learn more about you, my subjects, and so get on board with it because it just looks nice. That's what a lot of people are doing, and they're not really questioning whether or not this is beneficial to them as a part of those colored groups that have been oppressed by the same entity that is introducing multicultural agendas. Let's explore this scenario. In my research, in preparation for this presentation that I gave around feminism, I ran across a few scenarios that had to do with the problems of feminism. And even in preparing for this video, I had ran across another issue where a person had asked, is multiculturalism good for women? And one of the things in this scenario is where we have a problem where there's black feminists who've always felt excluded from the general feminist movement because feminism is a white as a white thing, and pretty much it's a thing that explores how white women can be more like white men and get their equal footing in white society, and black feminists always having to struggle within that realm of gaining acceptance or feeling like they're sisters in the struggle with white feminists, which is an oxymoron, but whatever. We'll go into that in another video. But where in that struggle between black feminists and white feminists, there was always complaining by black feminists that white feminists didn't really understand the struggle of black women, and that there's a difference in how black women are seen in black society and society overall, in a general white patriarchal society at large, and just, you know, the attempt by the white feminist movement to kind of take that into account in the overall feminist movement to incorporate, you know, the struggles of black women. And even still, there's issues of class, which is something that we need to talk about here later. But issues of class and still gender oppression, all these other things that really weren't considered in the overall feminist movement. And I bring this together because that was an attempt of white people trying to understand and bring black people into the overall discussion about feminism, and just the want for black feminists to have white feminists understand where they were coming from. It's still like it's that same type of general thing where we're asking, you know, the oppressor to see me, and this is the way that you can see me, by knowing about my culture and knowing my struggle, because I need you to understand. And the things that they already know, the things that you already understand, your own struggle, they already know what they've done to you, and you're asking your oppressor to like you more or to understand you more so that you can fight together for the same thing. And it doesn't really work like that. That sample situation is an example of why multiculturalism doesn't work, because, you know, the ending goal is to have a society where everybody is happy and smiley and understands each other and things like that. But that will never happen, because we live in a society that claims that it understands the struggles of people of color, yet it continues to terrorize people of color. And that stuff like charity to Africa or inclusion, diversity programs at your workplace, and all these things are feeble at best, and they are insulting at most, and really never really solve the question of our own struggle. And it's more of us begging for, not us begging, but it's more of us aligning ourselves with a term, with an idea that has nothing to do with us. We don't need multiculturalism to understand each other, because we've already been doing that. And it's the white oppressive society that needs multiculturalism to finally feel like they are included in something that they excluded themselves from, and making an attempt to make it, and their attempt is to make it look like they're no longer the same oppressive society that it continues to be. And you know, I like to look at Canada because here we have, you know, Canada is purported as being this multicultural, not Canada as a whole, but there's certain segments like, you know, Toronto and Ontario and things like that, that claim to be so multicultural, but yet there was a struggle around having an African-centered school, and that specifically, they were so multicultural and inclusive, yet there was a problem with the fact that that the black Africans in Canada who wanted to open an African-centered school, there was a struggle against that. In multicultural, inclusive Canada, there was a struggle that Africans wanted to actually open an African-centered school that was publicly funded, as an attempt for Africans themselves to understand something that was lost. And the very fact that these liberals wouldn't be included in that is the very downfall of multiculturalism, because it requires them to be included in something that they excluded themselves from being the terrorists that they are. And when you want to align yourself with the people of different cultures, you yourself have to make some concessions and actually be better. We don't have to accept multiculturalism. We don't have to accept that as a way to understand us. And I beg, you know, everybody to really look at that, because it's really backwards the way it is as it is now. In any case, there's a certain respect that needs to be had in order for that sort of honest and genuine intercultural relations to really happen the world over. You can't band-aid oppression of 100 or so years or more than that with some sort of neighborhood, you know, boys club program on multiculturalism with the diversity training that you infuse into your workplace for 8 weeks or anything like that, or even through marriage or sexual intercourse. You yourself have to be in a society that generally respects other cultures, regardless. Until the whole capitalist imperialist structure is done away with, until Africans have resources in their own hand, until every person is liberated from the oppressive stranglehold of imperialism, you are not going to have any genuine leeway or headway in the areas of getting to know or respect other people of different cultures. And that's just the real reality of it.